Good morning. Are you ready to get poked by Laura? Because that is what is happening right now, my friends. And bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to plug myself because that's what I need to do with consistency from now on. Please subscribe to my YouTube. It helps me greatly. I'm a single mom and a physician of East Asian medicine, and I am trying to recreate my life. I am 50 and I have lots to offer. So it's free to subscribe to my YouTube. What I would really ask, if you only did one thing, it would be to go to Patreon. What you're listening on right now, you might be on a preview or maybe you're already in there. Please become a member. It's free. I am giving away free advice, free guidance, free education, free insight into holistic healing and a different way of being as we move into a new time of being. And we need to really shift our mind in fundamental ways. And so I'm here to talk about some of those things today. I have a few things on my list. I'm not sure what we're going to get to, but where do I want to start? I think today I want to talk about ancestral healing. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, generational healing, the way that pain and suffering and systems of oppression can exist within a family. Okay, that is where I realized I was not live on TikTok, so let's continue. And I think a lot of times this can sound to many folks like something ethereal, something out of reach, like, oh yeah, I'm doing generational healing, or, and sometimes it can be quite literal, right? Like you can look at the Native American population in this country and look at what the United States government did to indigenous people here and how they have decimated those communities in so many ways. That's a literal passed on from generation to generation inheritance of trauma, pain, disenfranchisement. We can look at that in many minority populations in the U.S. that have been victimized by our government. So it exists in big systemic ways culturally, but it can also exist within our tiny little families, whether we're connected to them or not. Often we can look at our bodies, and I just finished an episode talking about how to make changes in life, so go back and check that out if you haven't heard that yet, and how you can approach really, really, really big shifts through really simple choices, but with big commitment. So low effort, high commitment changes. So the commitment is forever, or for as long, like without an end date. So the commitment is big, but it's a small act every day. So when we look at ancestral or generational healing, what I want to talk about is how we can do that through the body, because very often, not all of us engage intellectually at the same level. Not all of us feel or express in the same ways as humans. There are many different ways to crack an egg, peel an onion, pick your whatever. And one of the ways that is a non-cognitive and very effective and very powerful way of healing, it's very non-Western, so it's hard for a lot of Westerners to get this. So take a deep breath. Feel the bottoms of your feet. Feel them touching the floor or your shoes or whatever. Get grounded in your body right now and take this in. You can heal in total and complete without cognitive understanding. I'm not saying that that's your way. I'm not saying you don't need cognitive understanding. I'm not saying any of those things. This is not a negation. This is an and, not an or, okay? But you can actually heal your own issues and ancestral issues through body work, through body attention, through body awareness, and through body presence. And let me explain that. I will use my own body as an example. So on the maternal line side of my family, so my mom, her mom's mom, there is an ancestral genetic, if you will, that's a more westernized way to say it, pattern of lower body holding, which I think is a really, when I look at my whole family versus just my body and how I've learned to critique my body and that I'm still healing from, I see strength. I see bodies of women who were capable of holding and taking and carrying massive amounts of pressure and strain in a part of their body that gave them power, that gave them something to sit in. But over time, I think with the changes in the world, culture, so many things, that ability to take things on has become pathology. It's become a holding of trauma, sadness, grief, a lack of energy to move such heavy things alone. And so throughout the last, I'm 50, I'm working on 51 right now, and throughout the last 35 years of my life, I've been heavily body focused. Not so much the last 5 or 10 years, but still a really big part of my healing journey. Like a lot of my lessons came through my body, mentally, emotionally, and physically eventually, because eventually the mental and emotional shifts into the physical. That's the point, right? Healing generational pain that we have taken from our parents that still sits in our bodies, patterns that are still there that we may never be able to cognitively tap into. This is why very often, and forgive me while I go off on a tangent, people will go to therapy, cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy, what does that mean, right? Using your cognition, your frontal lobe, your frontal brain. You sit in front of a therapist and you do your stand-up routine, or what I called my stand-up routine because I'd had a stupid amount of therapists who mostly were useless. That is nothing against the therapy profession. I think the therapy profession is great. I think like any other one, you got to find the right person for you. But it's where you sit down and you use your frontal brain to tell your story. Here's my story. And then somebody else sits there and they have a pen and paper probably, and they're like taking notes and they're like, okay, let me reflect back your story and let's talk about this and let's look at this from different perspectives using our intellect. Fantastic. Love that kind of therapy. I did. I got to a point where I was done with it because I had figured a lot of things out that I was there to figure out. And when I left therapy, I still found that I had issues in my body. I didn't quite recognize it that way, right? But I still had some anxiety. I still had depression. I still carried things in my body in a particular way. And even though I felt in my intellect resolved and understood, I would still talk about things and my voice would shake or I would start to sweat. I still had grief and sorrow that was gripping. How do I get rid of that? Okay, so for me, ultimately, one of the biggest ways I shifted out of that kind of pain and suffering that was still mental, emotional, even though my intellect understood, was I went through a process in therapy, and this was way before it became a fad thing. Well, not way before, but before. I was in therapy with a somatic healer who was also a licensed family social worker, licensed therapist, psychologist. But we worked mostly with the body. And I'm not going to go into that process right now. That's a recording for another day. But it was a very simple process. It was a frustrating process because it did not involve telling stories. It did not involve my stand-up. It involved sitting together and noticing what happens in the body when certain things come up. That's as much as I'm going to say right now. So I went through that process, and I was able to release that level of suffering, grief. Like I was actually able to physically let it go. So now I had the cognitive understanding. I had found a way to truly release from my muscles, my tissue, my nervous system, and my brain the repetitive nature of the mind that wants to repeat and relive this emotional truth that's still there because it hasn't been tapped out of the body yet. Okay, so now I'm 50 and I'm very tuned into my body and my emotions and everything else. And I notice my left leg, my left side, my legs and lower body in general are holding, as I mentioned, right? My family holds there. So overall, my health profile, I would say, is much better than the generation of women that came before me. But things pop up ancestrally. And in my leg, my left leg in particular, there is a lymphatic issue. It tends to happen around the ankle. I was showing my son this morning. I said, do you see the difference between this side and this side? And it's something I discovered, I think during pregnancy was when I really noticed it. And I've been kind of noticing it ever since. And so I know from my family history that is something related to my mom and to my mom's mom and to my mom's mom's mom. And so I know that this is a type of ancestral holding and pattern that I don't need to cognitively, I don't need to go out and find a pill or some, I don't need to Google. What do I need to do? There's a pooling at the bottom. So I need to offer my body support and help. And so using the knowledge, the diagnostic system, the medical training, the experience that I have, I know what I need to do is get my feet up. I need to invert because my body is having trouble with the upward energy and the smooth flowing energy that yang energy moving provides in the body. Qi. Yang and qi. Uplifting. Yang and qi go up. Qi goes all directions. Qi goes in, qi goes out, qi goes up, qi goes down. But yang's energy is rising. It's lifting. It's spring. We're coming out of extreme yin right now, and we're about to go into early yang. We're coming out of the deadness of winter, hibernation, snow, the leaves are gone, the plants are all down in the earth, resting, germinating. And we're about to go through this boom, this upward yang push around us on earth. And that is the same thing that happens in our bodies because we are carbon-based beings. We are carbon-based beings living in a carbon-based world. And so as the earth tilts here in the northern hemisphere towards the sun, our energy rises. Hopefully you're already feeling that naturally right now, despite exhaustion, despite a very long winter that was the opposite of what winter should be, which is restful. We have not had a restful winter, as Americans at least. If you're listening to this somewhere else, hopefully you know what I'm talking about because send help, SOS. Gather the forces. Americans need your help. We have to help ourselves though too. So we're going to do that. That's why I'm here. So this upward energy in my body struggles, especially this time of year, right? Because for me, it's like I'm very grounded. I'm very earthy. Grounding is not my problem. I don't get anxiety. I don't tend to live in the clouds with my head. I tend to be a very grounded person. But that same grounding energy kind of can sink me also. So what I need to do is get my legs up. I need to help that fluid to come down, take the load off my heart, put a bolster under my pelvis to help that tilt so it comes down that way and then washes over me into my head. And I need to do shoulder stands and I need to do head stands. This is me, I'm talking about me. And just by the act of doing that, of supporting my body in a way that pattern in my ancestral history and health has never been supported before, because I guarantee you, no one in my matriarchal line was doing yoga and was inverting. They weren't. And so this pattern in my body has continued. And if the pattern's repeating in my body, then I'm repeating it out in the world. I'm repeating it for my son, right? So to shift that now, to heal that now, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to go back and learn all the things and spend my entire life knowing what my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandma did. No, I can just flip upside down and it helps my body heal. So I wanted to get across the idea that your body and the patterns that you might notice if you know your family. I was adopted, so I don't know all the patterns of every side of my family, but at least on my mother's side, I know the patterns well. I grew up with my aunts and my mom and my grandma, and so I can see those patterns, and then I can witness them in my own body. And instead of hating them, right, that's the other thing about this. It really helps you to see, I hope, more love for the things that might be difficult in your body, because you're carrying those traditions on. It's really not just your body. These are patterns that have come from the people before us. And I have found with those perspectives, I can be a lot more gentle and loving with the things that are difficult in my own body and in my own experience in life, because I can have appreciation for all the people that also had that before me and how that came to be, and that it actually helped us all to survive and to get to this point. It's like gratitude, coming from gratitude rather than ugh. I know most people, the older they get, the more they get ugh and like annoyed and irritated and grumpy and pissy. That's just a sign you gotta move your liver energy, babe. That's the ethereal soul. That's the generational, ancestral energy. It's stuck. It wants to move. So, ugh. But to get out of ugh, you gotta flip the perspective. You gotta jujitsu your head. You gotta jujitsu your body, right? Flip upside down maybe. And by the way, flipping upside down is not for everybody. If you tend to carry weight on the top, we need to do other things. We need to ground you. It's the opposite. Whether that's fluid or adipose or whatever. It's so simple, but also it does take some time to learn. So come back, subscribe to my Patreon, become a member on Patreon. It's free. I'm giving it away. Tell your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, tell everybody. YouTube, subscribe, like, all the things. It helps me. Okay? It's all for free. It's all for free. You would be so surprised to know how hard it is to give things away for free. I actually do know that. I used to charge a lot for that reason. I wanted to make my services valuable, but we're in a different time, which is the next topic that I'm going to talk about at some point. Maybe today? I don't know. Am I recording a bunch today? I don't know. It's still a snow day here. It's going to be 63, but right now it is my backyard, which is like really a state park, if I'm honest, is covered in snow. It's just snow, a ton of snow. And yet it's going to be 63 today. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm loving these wild changes. By the way, also, is it Neptune? Neptune moved into Aries 2 days ago. So we are officially in a new era of consciousness, of awareness, of emotions. So, step into it, feel it. And thanks for getting poked.